Memories are like units of meaning, and how we choose to remember and organize our past allows us to create context. Blade Runner 2049 examines memory by asking the question of trust. There's an interesting quote by Alison Landsberg that said the commodification of memories through history, films, television, museums, and the internet threatens to construct pasts that are privately satisfying rather than publicly useful. Her work is normally a lot more optimistic than this quote, but this notion that there's a tension between private memories and media forces is something that Kay has to deal with. He doesn't know if his identity as something more than a replicant is something denied from the outer world, or is actually coming from an inner, illusory sense of grandiosity.
I had memories, but they're not real, they're just implants.
So the entire crux of the drama is derived from showing a man who cannot trust his connection with the past to give him meaning in the present. Subsequently, the purpose of this essay is to analyze how Blade Runner 2049 explores the relationship between technology and memory, since this gives me an excuse to rewatch the film again.
Getting on fine without one.
What's that, madam?
A soul.
Memory as a commodity is something that has become a major player in modern culture, not just in terms of nostalgic films. Alison Landsberg, who I just referenced, had a whole thesis called prosthetic memory, where she noticed that if you turn memory into a product, like a period drama for instance, it doesn't just circulate the past easier due to the cultural powers of mass consumption, but it also creates a system of empathy and solidarity too, because these representations of the past becomes an additional tool, like a prosthetic limb, that allows people to understand the experiences of others in a way that they couldn't have before, especially after traumatic events.
But I was locked in a sterile chamber at 8, so if I wanted to see the world, I had to imagine it. Got very good at imagining.
And in Blade Runner 2049, this very human understanding that technology builds empathy and improves upon the emotional value of people are represented in 3 characters. Joy, who despite being a mass-produced AI who's marketed on billboards everywhere, she and Kay loves each other. It's something deeply genuine and more substantive than Kay's relationship with actual human beings, to the point that it is through this love that he has any interest to want to be more and to be better.
You're too important for Kay.
Even after her death, being called Joe by the ad gives Kay the motivation to do personally what he believes is right. There's also Love, who's a replicant who serves Neander Wallace, and one of her key moments is killing Lieutenant Joshi.
In the face of the fabulous new, your only thought is to kill it? For fear of great change?
She is able to comprehend more than human anxiety when it comes to witnessing social change. And then there's Anna Stelline, who I'm also hoping I pronounced correctly, who produces memories for others. And what's interesting is that the ability to create memories into a consumable product is presented as an art form here. She's not a cynical industrialist here to make money, but a deeply tragic and isolated artist being able to give meaning to others by communicating experiences.
They all think it's about more detail, but that's not how memory works. We recall with our feelings. Anything real should be a myth.
All 3 characters effectively have access in making sense of the present and the possibilities of the future, because by not being recognized as a human being, they recognize the value of being human. And subsequently, they can be mapped out into a hierarchy of influences for Kay. Anna produces memory that is implicitly involved with Kay's sense of emotional worth. Joy is directly instrumental in giving Kay ambition, and Love is who Kay could have been if he organized himself into being proud of his identity. They are all characters that are able to craft meaning in their life, and they all have some form of impact on how Kay becomes an author of his own memories, even when the past turns out to be untrue. The reveal that Kay was in fact not the cross-human and replicant hybrid child / chosen one turns the story oddly enough into a strangely fitting metaphor for what prosthetic memory can offer the individual because, as Landsberg argued, commodities offer people choice, since the consumer can decide how to use the product, even if it's subversive to the original intent.
It feels authentic, and if you have authentic memories, you'll have real human responses.
The memories of Anna gives Kay experiences that develops him in subjective ways that he never had or even could have before.
I feel a little strange sharing a childhood story, considering I was never a child.
It may not be true, but it enabled him to think morally and emotionally, as the basis of his identity comes from him being able to view the world from the fears of a child being chased by bullies. Empathy is a choice in his identity now.
Little Kay fighting for what's his. It's a good one.
This opportunity is highlighted with his moment with the lieutenant, where she subtly dismisses his existence.
You know, I've known a lot of your kind. All useful, but with you I sometimes forget. We didn't have any of you where I was a kid.
She's not a malicious character because she's not evil or anything, but like how love represented who Kay could be, the lieutenant represents who Kay is. Someone who has no authorship in their life because there's no sense of creativity in her relationship with herself. There's only the job and the fears related to it.
The world is built on a wall. It separates kind. Tell either side there's no wall, you bought a war. It is my job to keep order. That's what we do here, we keep order.
The other important moments are Kay's scenes with Joy, who not only comforts Kay when he enters the existential unknown, but she dies trying to save him.
I love you.
She represented that being more was possible, that even in death, the effort itself was worth everything. Subsequently, these experiences is what empowers Kay with the will to decide. Does he become a servant for the replicant revolution, or does he choose something else? Perhaps something that would allow him to serve what he truly desires for once. And he does. He chooses not to kill Deckard, but to save him. Therefore, when he dies on the steps looking to the sky, while a father reunites with his child, he is not only closer to being human, but arguably he becomes more human than anyone else. As Landsberg said, what I hope to underscore here is the unique capacity of film and other technologies of reproduction to generate empathy. By revealing perspectives otherwise inaccessible and by addressing the individual body in the intimate ways that they do, these technologies of reproduction serve as particularly powerful conduits for the generation of empathy. Just as Kay experienced a new frontier of life from the memories of Anna, ironically enough, as the audience will remember this experience with him in our own ways too. Blade Runner 2049, despite being a cyberpunk film about a dystopian modernistic future, it's actually a deeply optimistic story about technology, memory, and people. These three forces stimulates constructive possibilities with each other. It's not about the fear of how technology will be the downfall of humanity's unhindered ambition or something. It's about the hopeful belief that there's more opportunities than dead ends. And this is all through the lens of understanding how Kay chooses to make meaning from his memories. He shows us that believing in the self doesn't require anyone's permission because private meaning is a kind of superpower in a way. It is emotional actualization on a grand scale. Okay, that sounded way more dramatic than I intended.
You look lonely.